Welcome to the Health and Wellness Club with Bill Romanowski. In partnership with the new Health and Wellness monthly magazine in the Chronicle, the Health and Wellness Club gives you a look inside health and wellness that you can't find anywhere else. Your host, Bill Romanowski, is a 4-time Super Bowl champion, and when he left the gridiron behind, his passions became healthy lifestyles and nutrition to help the mind and body function at the highest level. Today, he shares his passion with you. Now, your host, Bill Romanowski.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the Health and Wellness Club. We're going to be talking today about the Bulletproof diet, which we're drinking the coffee now. I'm here with my special guest host, Dr. Barbara Persons. Barbara, how you doing?
I am doing great. I have my coffee right in front of me, ready to go.
I got mine too. I can't wait to keep drinking it. And we have Dr. Tony Varela, a naturopath, a good friend of mine that I've worked with for a couple of years. How are you, Tony?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Bill.
You got it.
Fun to have another girl in the room.
And we have some exciting guests. Laird Hamilton, one of my friends, and another friend. Laird's a legendary surfer. He surfs some of the biggest waves on the planet. And we also have Anthony Almada, who's going to be with us. He's got his master's in nutrition at the University of Berkeley. Fantastic guy. He's a guy that I've always reached out to when I've had questions about health and wellness and about nutrition, and there's really no subject that he can't cover. So I'm excited to talk to him. But right now we have on the line Drew Nederpelt, the founder of the Health and Wellness monthly magazine, and he's also the partner in our show here. So I'm real excited to introduce everyone to Drew. Drew, how you doing?
Hey, Bill, the doctors, it's great to be here. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed the last several shows you guys have been doing. You're really carrying the banner proudly, and we're happy for that.
Well, thank you. We're going to be talking today about the national launch, Drew. Can you fill us in?
Sure, absolutely. Well, we're starting a print magazine across the country, starting in San Francisco, in the San Francisco Chronicle on December 18th. People are asking, why in the world would you launch a print magazine in this world of online interaction? And I'll tell you, it's really twofold. You guys are in health and wellness. You also understand that we're inundated on a daily basis by content coming at us from TV, from radio, from online, from all the devices we have attached to us as we make our way through our daily lives. And to consume health and wellness content, we felt that we needed another avenue to reach people at a time when they're not being pulled in different directions. And we discovered that the only way, when you're online, think about it. What are you trying to do when you're reading something online? You're trying to minimize the ads that are popping up. You're trying to avoid all of the banner ads. You're trying to avoid advertising in general. Most of this population today, 50% of people, have ad blockers on their phone. So if you're an advertiser, you're not reaching the consumers who know enough, the sophisticated consumers who know enough to install ad blockers. So we looked at the entire offering available to us to communicate health and wellness content to our customers, and we realized that print magazines are really the only bastion left where you can communicate to a consumer where they don't try to run away from your advertising and from your message. And while, believe me, as the guy who's writing the checks to print all these magazines, to put them on trucks, to distribute them to the people and the businesses that we're doing it, is very, very expensive. We'd rather not be doing this. But print magazines are really the only medium where a consumer feels it's me time. It's a time for them to sit back and they can not worry about minimizing ads or running away or changing the channel. They can escape from reality and even enjoy the advertising. As long as it's related to health and wellness, the advertising is actually welcome. It gives you suggestions for bettering your life. So really, printed magazines are a no-brainer in that regard. And the second reason we're spending all this time and money on a printed magazine is because that's what our advertisers want. They want to know that we're reaching 100% of the people that we're trying to reach, and that 100% of those folks are actually going to put their hands on our content. And as you can imagine, when you get a printed magazine delivered to your doorstep, whether you're a business or a home, if that magazine said Quarter Horse Daily or something like Wax Candle Quarterly, most consumers are not going to pick that up. With something called Health and Wellness Monthly Magazine, with real journalism, with quirky, edgy content, we think that we will get as close to 100%, if not 100% engagement. So it's a unique way of doing things, but we've looked at the options, and we really think a printed magazine is the best way to get health and wellness content to the consumer.
Question for you. What are some of the things we're going to be talking about in the first issue coming out?
Well, great question. You guys have already talked a little bit about some of the articles. You guys did a great job talking to the founder of Bally's Gyms, Don Wildman, a couple weeks ago. That was in reference to an article in the first issue with regards to the evolution of exercise. And you guys spent most of the show talking about how gyms have evolved from male-centric, and Don took some great credit for having positioned gyms and workout facilities to include women and to include females back in the 70s. So that's something. Most of our articles from this magazine, Bill, we could actually turn into hour-long discussions on the radio because they're that interesting. Now, you contrast that with Health Magazine, Shape Magazine, Men's Health Magazine. We have a little game we play called Health Magazine Bingo. And if next time you're at a grocery store, just look at the health magazines next to you. You've got options. So the bingo includes words like lose and fast and all of the things that are interchangeable in these different magazines. They all look the same. And, every women's magazine will include the word belly or shrink or melt or sex. And literally every single magazine will include that. What we try to do is we try to bring stories to the consumer that they can't get elsewhere. Who's in charge of determining what those ER wait times are? Do you see on those billboards, right? That's a far cry from get your bikini ready belly. So we really believe.
But question for you there, Drew.
Yeah.
Doesn't that tell you that's what people want to read? That catches their attention?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like candy. If people could eat candy every day, all day, they would. But after a certain amount of candy, you kind of realize, you know what? I actually need to start eating a little better. If you have a subsist on a steady diet of flat abs fast, then you are going to be left deflated. You're going to be left unhappy because you're not going to get, unless you're Bill Romanowski and Bill Romanowski's acolytes, you're not going to be able to get that body in the time frame in which it's proposed.
And Drew, Barbara, I am really excited because I think this magazine is going to talk about things that really work. And as a doctor, 20 years in training, I'm telling you, those magazines are mostly baloney. And what we're talking about so far, like even last week's segment on sleep, is just amazing because your magazine will be real facts that we can read when our blue screens are off before we go to sleep, and then institute something every week.
Exactly. And again, it's not all gloom and doom for sure. I mean, our website for the magazine is yesitsthatimportant.com. So you sort of get the impression that we're not just talking about shrinking love handles and how to have better sex. We're talking about sort of a more universal health and wellness. So we do include fitness. We do include nutrition. We do include funny articles. We also include all the gamuts of health and wellness. So it includes financial wellness. It includes societal wellness. It includes mental, physical, spiritual. So wellness is a very, very broad category. So, maybe we're being a little harsh on the Shapes and the Men's Healths of the world because they really concentrate on fitness, but we're really an inclusive health and wellness magazine delivered every month to your doorstep.
Well, for those of you who are just joining us, we're talking with CEO and founder of the Health and Wellness magazine, Drew Nederpelt. And Drew, I appreciate your time. This is going to be a fun project for us. I can't wait to start reading the magazine, and we're going to have fun every week doing the show. We're fired up to get into all these different things that can really help make our lives better. And at the end of the day, that's what this is about. How can we make people better out there? Live better, leaner, healthier, sleep better, all of those things. So, hey, coming up, we're going to be talking about the Bulletproof diet. You won't want to miss my special guest, big wave surfer, Laird Hamilton. Stay with us.
For more information on today's topics, check out Bill's podcast. Go to 860amtheanswer.com and click the podcast tab. The Health and Wellness Club with Bill Romanowski will continue in just a moment on 860 AM The Answer. Now, back to the Health and Wellness Club with Bill Romanowski on 860 AM The Answer.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm here with Dr. Barbara Persons and Dr. Tony Varela, and we have a special guest, a friend of mine, one of the best surfers in the world, a visionary when it comes to health and wellness and nutrition. Like I said, a good friend of mine, Laird Hamilton. Laird, how you doing?
Good, Bill. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You got it. I'm here with two of my doctor friends, and we're going to be talking about the Bulletproof diet. And the first thing I thought of is, I think before the Bulletproof diet even came out, Laird was giving me, coffee with butter in it. And I was like, let's get him on the show and let him talk about it, because you're the one in my mind who started it.
Well, I always like to say, that there's nothing new. It's a new application of an old idea. And I think if you look at, a lot of things that we do in our diets naturally, we've abused them, but originally in their original concept, I think that they were meant to have some function in it. And, the first time I ever started talking about ghee and espresso was with Paul Chek a few years ago. Before there was, before anybody had a Bulletproof diet. The one thing I appreciate about what the Bulletproof diet did for me was it brought my awareness kind of back to coconuts. I have a good relationship being from Hawaii and just the miracles that coconut milk, coconut water, and then now, of course, coconut oil have. And so that's where, I give Bulletproof concept that credit as like bringing my awareness back to coconut oil and just how powerful that is.
Now, Laird, what do you think it does for you? Now, this is something you do every morning, right?
Absolutely. Well, for me, I feel like it really affects my brain, my mental clarity. I notice that, and then my appetite. I feel like if I start my day with a sufficient amount of fat, and then I love caffeine. I feel like the fat and the caffeine relationship, it just makes the caffeine time release. It's like a time release effect, so you don't get the big crash. And then I get definitely some mental clarity and focus with all those fats. I have a superfood line of foods, Laird Superfoods, that has, we're using red palm oil and coconut oil and butters and, other fats. I'm really under the belief that you need to use these elements, these supplements in their whole food form. Something about the concentration levels when it's in whole food. When it started that way, it's meant to be that way. Your body knows how to use it that way, and it seems like I kind of gravitate towards trying to use any kind of supplement in its as close to the original state as you can pull it off.
Absolutely. This is Barbara, and I wondered also how long you've been following this diet plan or living plan.
Well, I think my excessive levels of fat and my focus on excessive levels of fat has been for a couple of years now. I'm probably 3 or 4 years into being. I've been on paleo before there was paleo. Like I said, Paul Chek was a big influence of mine, and he had a saying: if it wasn't here 10,000 years ago, don't eat it. If you can't pronounce it, don't eat it. The 3 white devils are white flour, white sugar, and white milk. And I think dairy gets a bad rap, but because we've abused it. I think when you look at raw cheeses and raw milks and other raw products, that there's a certain quality, that there's a certain nutritional value that those things have when they have the enzymes in it. But when we've just destroyed our foods to the point where they just don't have the nutrient density they used to. So we have to start getting a little bit more creative and finding, other exotic foods that have high mineral density and again, in that whole food source.
Hey, Laird, it's Tony. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I love what you're saying. My interest picked up when you said palm oil. I haven't heard anyone use that, and I'd like to know why you added that into the mix.
Well, that red palm oil, I don't know what it is, and I we've been talking about this. I have a kind of health and wellness, I would call it an experiential thing that I've been doing called XPT, where we take people through like a kind of lifestyle health and wellness and fitness thing. And when I expose people to that, we talk about your instincts and your ability that you are your own greatest doctor. And when you are actually in a healthy enough state to really sense what food does, you start to have an idea of what's good for you and what's not. And, I immediately, when I tried red palm oil, it did something to me. Something about it was like, something about this. And then, I learned it's got, 2,000 times or 200 times the, beta carotene of a carrot. And it has all these other minerals and vitamin E and all this other great stuff. And I'm like, oh, yeah. But I knew it already. I just didn't have the science. And I think when people are healthy enough and they give their bodies enough of a chance to really work for them, that you start to intuitively know when this stuff's great for you, when it's healthy for you. I mean, we had an ability, a long time ago to know, what plants to eat given what we needed. We knew, I need to eat that little flower because that thing has this thing that my body needs. And, since the abuse of food, we've kind of lost, or should I say the abuse of taste, we've lost that skill to kind of know intuitively, hey, I need that. But when you start to give your body enough of a break and stay away from, all that crap that makes you react to your taste buds, you get that intuition back because it's in there. It's kind of down deep.
Hey, for any of you that are just joining us, we're talking with Laird Hamilton, legendary surfer, visionary when it comes to nutrition and health and wellness. Now, Laird, I know you're also doing your XPT. Can you talk a little bit about XPT and what's going on with that?
Well, XPT is really, we talk about nutrition and health and wellness and, there's all these fitness and diet things, but it's really lifestyle. And XPT is, it stands for the exploration and performance training, but really it's a lifestyle kind of, we take people through a camp where they're exposed to 3 days of how we live in a way. It's a little bit magnified because we're trying to give them as much information as we can, and then also give them as much, fitness stuff as well. So, I mean, we're going to do, ice and heat and some unique pool training, and then some, we're going to have special guest speakers. We're going to do all kinds of different typing out and speak about psychology and just again, as much of a comprehensive kind of overview of our lifestyle, but then just give people tools that they can take with them into their life and try to get a better quality life through, some of these things that we take for granted, being athletes and kind of being around this kind of lifestyle. We're just used to it, but not everybody has that luxury, and we've learned that, and so we're trying to, bring it to more people.
Fantastic. Now, if people want to find out about XPT, how can they do that?
You can just go to xpt.com online and or XPT Life, actually. It's xptlife.com, and it'll tell you what we're doing. It'll show you a bunch of the experiences that we've already done, and it'll show you when when the next ones are, coming up.
Awesome. Laird, I appreciate you joining us.
Thank you. I'm about ready to step on a plane. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for spreading the message of health.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laird.
Have a good flight.
That was legendary, world-class big wave surfer, Laird Hamilton. I tell you what a guy. And a visionary when it comes to health and nutrition. Coming up next, more on the Bulletproof diet and how you can lose up to 1 pound of body fat a day with this diet right after this commercial break.
You're listening to the Health and Wellness Club with Bill Romanowski. More in a moment on 860 AM. The Answer. You're listening to the Health and Wellness Club with Bill Romanowski on 860 AM. The Answer. Once again, your host, Bill Romanowski.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Bill Romanowski, and I'm here with Dr. Persons and Dr. Tony Varela, and we're talking about the Bulletproof diet. And what is it? It's about consuming more fats in your diet, less protein, and a lot less carbs, and basically trying to turn your body into utilizing more fat as energy throughout the day. And by doing that, it sustains, you get more sustained energy, and you get health benefits, you lose weight, you sleep better, all those things. And I wanted to introduce Dr. Tony Varela, who's with us. And she's been working with me for a couple of years. And this is something she knows a lot about. She knows the founder of the Bulletproof diet. How you doing, Tony?
I'm great. How are you?
So how did you get introduced to the Bulletproof diet?
My girlfriend is the PR rep for Bulletproof down in LA, and she basically spreads all of the great love and lifestyle that Bulletproof promotes throughout the nation. And internationally. We were just in Mexico making Bulletproof coffee.
So basically, for people that don't know what they do, how this starts, it's fascinating to me, is breakfast is Bulletproof coffee with butter and MCT oil added to it. We've had some here in studio. As you can tell, it's really good. And I've had it with Laird, probably 25 times. And so, questions with this diet. How do you feel about the diet as a doctor, a naturopath, and what kind of benefits do your patients get from it?
What I like about it is that it takes the paleo ancestral-like roots of a paleo diet, having nutrient-dense foods, while being mindful of the toxins that are in our modern-day world. So telling you what kinds of sources, what kinds of things you should be aware, in terms of choices that you make at the store, getting organic veggies. If you're going to eat fruit, choose organically, limit the starches because of mold toxins, and basically doing grass-fed like products, whether it's the fats that you choose from ghee to, or just grass-fed raised butter, as well as the proteins.
And Tony, I love what you just said, and I particularly love it that this is all science. I'm a biochemistry major before I went into medicine and surgery. And at first, when I was reading and teasing out the Bulletproof diet, I was asking questions like, why grass-fed and not grain-fed? What are we talking about in toxins? Is this some ephemeral thing or real? And as you tease through this diet, it makes sense. I mean, it makes sense from a naturopathic sense, and also all the way right down to hard biochemistry and the ketones and glycolysis and ATP and all of that. The science is solid.
Another thing that's really, I think, strong about this, I'm going to say this, probably the best thing about the Bulletproof diet is you eliminate sugar and you eliminate starches.
Very highly inflammatory.
Yes. So you take those two things away from our society, and we would be a leaner society, we'd be a healthier society, and we would live longer.
Right.
Probably most of the things you deal with on a daily basis have to do with, and we talked about it with sleep last week, has to do with inflammation.
Right.
So how does the sugar and starches affect your body?
It ends up increasing your insulin hormone. And if you're not utilizing all that energy that you're getting from grains, things like that, then you're going to end up storing all of that fat in your cells because you're not processing it.
So bottom line is you got to be either a high performance athlete or somebody that really works out a lot to be able to utilize all those carbohydrates, correct?
Yeah, and it's a fast burn. So you run through it quickly and then feel tired.
And then you need more.
And then you feel like you need more.
So you keep feeding your body this bad stuff, as Leo Laird was calling it, the 3 whites.
I like that. White sugar, white flour.
Yeah, and starches. So a lot of people start their day with coffee, and then what do they get at Starbucks? They get a muffin, a scone. It's the first thing they ask me if I ever stop for coffee. Oh, would you like a muffin or a scone with that? And I'm like, heck no. I mean, you want to get me fat here? I don't tell them that, but sometimes I do.
Right, and even with dairy.
Yeah. So then also meat. This is all about grass-fed, hormone-free meat. That's not that easy. And how do you know that it's grass-fed, hormone-free?
You would have to go right into communication with the farmers that raise them. And yes, some people lie about it because there's grass-fed, there's grass-finished. Yes, grass-fed is going to be better than the grass-finished. That is a thing now that's being said, where they raise them on grain and then within the last year or 6 months, they'll just put them on grass and then call it a day and then put it out there. Yes, this is grass-fed. But no, it's not one and the same.
So I'm a big turkey guy. I'm a big chicken guy. And a little bit of pork. So that I see is one of those things that's not a big thing on this diet, the Bulletproof diet. So, why is that?
So again, a lot of them are grain fed, but also they are leaner in fat. So you're not getting the nutrient density that you are like in cow product or those wild meats.
And the concept is that you are in eating most chickens and poultry, you are getting all the toxins, which include pesticides and many other things that are known to cause illness.
And lectins.
I'm big on organic fruits and vegetables. And I'm going to say this because I just read it in the book Disease Delusion by Jeffrey Bland, is they talked about why organic vegetables are healthier for you. And it was kind of really simple, but it was fascinating. And if you use pesticides, the actual plant itself does not have to work as hard to survive. Molds, bugs, things like that. It doesn't have to, create all these, phytonutrients inside to take on these environmental issues. So that right there was like a light went off on me because I really did not believe that organic was better for you. I just didn't.
And a friend of mine was a dairy farmer and talked about the magnitude of what you have to go through to be certified organic. I mean, it really means the land can't have had any pesticides, the whole area, anything coming in cannot to feed anybody, anything, can't have any of those chemicals. And it really is important.
And the reason why people are so concerned nowadays is because these toxins are getting into your system and causing weight. You are gaining inflammation, that water weight, and they're hormone disruptive. So you're not getting those fat metabolizing hormones as sensitive as you'd want them to.
Well, for any of you that have just joined us, we're talking about the Bulletproof diet. I'm here with Dr. Barbara Persons and Dr. Tony Varela, and we're exploring the Bulletproof diet. We're looking at the benefits of it. And coming up next, we have a special guest, Anthony Almada, and we're going to get into the science behind the Bulletproof diet. So stay tuned.
For more information on today's topics, check out Bill's podcast. Go to 860amtheanswer.com and click the podcast tab. The Health and Wellness Club with Bill Romanowski will continue in just a moment on 860 AM The Answer. Now, back to the Health and Wellness Club with Bill Romanowski on 860 AM. The Answer.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm here with Barbara and Tony, and we're talking about the Bulletproof diet. And I have a special guest on the line. His name is Anthony Almada, and we've worked together for probably the last 10 years or so. When it comes to nutrition, if I have a question within my supplement company, this is the guy I go to. He is a go-to guy, and he's got a master's in nutrition and exercise from UC Berkeley. So, Anthony, how are you?
Hi, Bill. Good afternoon.
Well, we've been talking, as you know, about the Bulletproof diet. So I was like, there's no better person than to reach out to someone that I know knows a lot about it. So what do you think about the Bulletproof diet?
Well, I know it's taken a lot of people's interest, and it has a very strong viral spread. I think if I look back on all the different diets that I've seen over the past 4 decades, there are diets that have risen to the top. They've lasted for a while, and then they fall off, because I think one of the things that makes it very appealing is its dramatic novelty compared to other diets. And it's an extension of a low-carb or an Atkins or a ketogenic diet with some modifications. It has some very dramatically departures from other types of diets. And you got a best-selling New York Times best-selling book, and that can froth a lot of demand and interest and trial with it. So it's a very intriguing diet to examine and discuss.
So, Anthony, what do you? This is Barbara Persons. What do you think are the most important good things about it, and what might you change?
Well, I think for a sedentary person, any reduction in your carb intake, your carbohydrate intake, for most people can have a mild to dramatic change in terms of how they feel and or how they look. And I think it's important to call it the word sedentary, or not intensively physically active. And we'll put athletes to the side. With respect to the avoidance of things that are now part of cocktail parties worldwide, no gluten, change or very low carbs. And one of the things that the Bulletproof diet is resembling is the so-called low FODMAP diet, fermentable oligomonosaccharides and polyols, which for some people, where they think it's
that was a mouthful.
That was. You spoke
I'm glad I did that biochemistry major.
That was good.
It's a 6-letter word, all caps, FODMAP, and it relates to certain carbs that are in foods, even in an avocado, that some people can't digest and absorb well. We know from a number of studies that about 1/3 of the population cannot absorb fructose, and fructose is a concern in the Bulletproof diet. And so, if you eat honey, which is about 50% fructose, or if you have agave syrup, even if it's organic and non-GMO, even though it's agave syrup, it's like high fructose corn syrup. It's about 60% fructose.
Right, these are just sugars that are melded together in different ways.
But it's fructose itself.
Wow.
Where a good part of the population does not absorb it well. So if it doesn't get absorbed, it goes down and hangs out in the lower bowel, creates gas, draws water, and bloating. A lot of symptoms that people equate with a gluten diet or wheat. And it may not be wheat, it may not be gluten. I think the interesting thing about the Bulletproof diet is the way that you start your day. I mean, the so-called Bulletproof coffee cocktail. And one of the
Anthony, by the way, we just started our afternoon with a cup of Bulletproof coffee.
Oh, it's morning somewhere, Bill.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
That's what we
somewhere.
In Australia.
Exactly.
How do you feel about, Tony here. How do you feel about the use of coffee? Because some people find it a neurotoxin, given the amounts that are drunk in this diet. Do you find that it's packed full of antioxidants as purported, or do you find that the mold exposure could be problematic if people aren't consuming necessarily the Bulletproof brand? and other coffees.
Also, yeah, and add to that, Anthony, how about the caffeine?
Yeah.
How much caffeine are they taking in?
Yeah, how does it compare to Red Bull?
Well, let's use Red Bull as a benchmark or as a measuring stick. So one can Red Bull has 80 milligrams of caffeine. Now, the thing that you commonly say is this is equivalent to, like, for a 5-hour energy, it's equivalent to 1 cup of coffee. Well, who's making that cup, and what size is that cup? So we know from work that was done about a decade ago from the University of Florida Medical School there, they went to a Starbucks 6 days in a row, the exact same Starbucks, and they got a grande, 16 ounces. They analyzed it for caffeine content. It ranged from about 250 milligrams to 520 milligrams.
Wow.
Do you ever get your cup of coffee that says, today it has 314 milligrams in it? Never. It's an unknown dose that changes every day. And I'll bet you that the Bulletproof brand does not control and monitor the caffeine content in every single serving as brewed per directions. And I spoke with a company from the UK last week. They claim to have developed a method to standardize coffee that has exact same caffeine content every single serving with exact same size. And I said, well, that's interesting because if you can do that, if you can control how much of a naturally occurring ingredient like caffeine is in a coffee bean on each batch with changes in rain and sun and Juan Valdez picking on the afternoon one day and the morning another day, then you have done a biological miracle. What we find is that many so-called natural coffee sourced in drinks, foods, supplements, they actually spike it with synthetic caffeine to give you the desired dose. And no one has ever tested for that. And I've been working with an attorney who will be leading the first class action lawsuit that will prove that many very big brands are using synthetic caffeine to make their natural caffeine content claim. It's a very, very interesting situation. So with the good question is, how much caffeine is in there? I don't know. Depending upon the temperature of water, how long you brew it, you're going to get a different drug-like effect.
So basically what you're saying is you approve more of a Red Bull because you at least know exactly what your caffeine is. So what I want everyone to know is you're speaking with Anthony Almada, and he's on the show today, and we're talking about the Bulletproof diet, and I'm on with Dr. Persons and also Dr. Tony Varela, and we're getting down into the science of it, and one of the things we're discussing right here is the caffeine levels. And me being a high performance athlete at one time, hey, I loved a certain amount of caffeine, but too much caffeine would really take me over the edge. So speaking to that, how do you think this diet would be for a high performance athlete?
Well, Bill, we've talked about that numerous times as to what really works. And so being a scientist, and I've been involved in a bunch of university research studies, I have to ask the question, have there been any studies that use a Bulletproof diet compared to another diet, equal calories and equal protein, and showed a performance benefit? No. It's all anecdote. Doesn't mean it doesn't work, but there's no independent third-party proof that it's better. And we know from a number of studies, including the most recent one that was done at the National Institutes of Health, that people do not report accurately what they eat, have to put it back into a questionnaire or a diary later in the afternoon or the evening. They typically underreport. And if you have the chance to be in a diet study and say, here's your diet, or they give you the meals, and you go home, it's so easy to cheat, even unintentionally, or go off the diet. And we know that when you put people into a place where they are living and you see everything they eat and you measure everything that comes out of their body and you measure everything they leave on the plate, it's a very different discussion than so-called free living studies. So right now, I would say from an evidence perspective, there is no evidence to support the superiority of the Bulletproof diet for an athlete. It doesn't mean it wouldn't be, and I bet there are some people that, as athletes, would thrive on that diet, and others would notice no difference, and others would have a very, very undesirable effect from the diet. It doesn't fit everyone.
Hey, Anthony, question for you. What are you up to now, and how can people get a hold of you?
Still leading Vitargo Global Sciences. We have a patented sugar-free, gluten-free, non-GMO carb, and we just published another study about 2 months ago looking at recovery performance. And you can always reach me at Anthony@VitargoS2.com or store.vitargo.com, which will be changing our website. We're focused on all categories of athletes from 4-year-olds to 84-year-olds.
And Vitargo is a product that is great for athletes. I know I've taken it. I've given it to my kids. And it's something that helps endurance. It helps recovery. It just helps athletes in what they do. And it's all about, to me, what we do in this show, Anthony, it's about getting better. And clearly, this is a product, Vitargo, that can make athletes better.
Thanks for the plug, Bill.
You got it. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
So we've been talking to Anthony Almada, expert health and nutritionist, on the significance of the Bulletproof diet.
I think that was interesting. Did we just say that Red Bull is better than coffee, possibly?
No, I don't think there was any confirmation there. We did say that randomized controlled studies are important. Obviously, Anthony knows his stuff.
Yeah.
Because he was saying if you didn't do a study, you can't just say it's true.
No, that was awesome. So remember to go to hwcradio.com to hear today's show in its entirety. And be sure to email me your questions at romo@hwcradio.com. Stay with us. I'm here with Barbara and Tony, and we're going to be right back to wrap up the show.
You're listening to the Health and Wellness Club with Bill Romanowski. More in a moment on 860 AM. The Answer. You're listening to the Health and Wellness Club with Bill Romanowski on 860 AM. The Answer. Once again, your host, Bill Romanowski.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm with Barbara and Tony, and we were just talking with Anthony Almada about the Bulletproof diet. What do you think, Tony?
I think he had a lot of great things to contribute to our conversation. But I also wanted to talk a little bit more about Dave Asprey, the founder of the Bulletproof, basically lifestyle, not just diet, and where he came from. Basically, he had a mold overgrowth and it went undiagnosed. So what he went out to do was to find a healthy, high immune supportive, nutrient dense diet that was low in toxins, so that he could improve on an optimal basis. So that was partly how he came up with coffee and finding low mold exposed beans. However, now people are saying it really doesn't matter how much mold is influenced in the bean because you're roasting it off. So there's a controversy there that people might want to look into. Is it really worth buying this thing? Granted, the whole lifestyle and diet is great on a holistic level to create that awareness in your own life, to have a nutrient-dense diet, to go organic, to be aware of these toxins in the environment. However, look to see what's worth, the worth is.
I got to admit, he basically took the paleo diet, added coffee to it with butter, and rebranded it as Bulletproof. I tell you what, fascinating thing he did. He really, it's a great marketing play, and everybody loves it. So what do you think, Barbara?
I agree with what you and Tony said. And I think the additional interesting thing combing through his book twice is that he also set out to figure out which additives and things his body tolerated well, the nightshades, for example, and taught us a little bit that you can try chicken, like you like organic chicken, and see how your body handles it.
Right. It's an individual basis.
Yes.
I am a human guinea pig. I have tried almost everything out there, and that's basically what I do. And I'll try it for a while, and if I feel something, I'll usually stay with it. But if I don't feel something, a lot of times there has to be science behind it for me to stick with it. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
So I think, yeah, you take what you will from these generic ideas. You have a basis of what's inflammatory, what's not, but also look at your own genes, your personal preferences, really listen to your body. And that's, I think, the key point for what we would all suggest. Listen to your body. How does it react to these things? And go from there, because everyone is different. But take a look at, Weston A. Price, the China study, and then this Bulletproof diet, and see that really it just goes back to really packing in the nutrients, and staying away from processed and refined foods.
And Tony, I look forward to learning from you and Bill Romanowski about what to do. I mean, I know to be a pro athlete, you have to have it down. And there's just a lot to learn. I was asking earlier what you do for breakfast and lunch, and your nutrition company, Nutrition 53, is fantastic.
So we're going to keep exploring a lot of these different things. Last week it was sleep. This week the Bulletproof diet. I'm going to incorporate some things to this and see how it does. And we'll talk about it a little bit next week. And if anybody wants more information, they can go to hwcradio.com, or they can email me, Romo, at hwcradio.com, and they can listen to the shows. They can look up information about the magazine, the Health and Wellness magazine. And I tell you what a great show. Thank you both for joining me today. Barbara, Tony, that was fascinating. Laird
really
Hamilton.
Fun.
Laird Hamilton was with us. He was great. He talked about how he got started with the coffee and the Bulletproof diet. He kind of changed it up and made it his own. And then Anthony Almada was pretty fascinating. He had some big words there.
Brilliant guy.
Yeah. So good stuff. Well, I love helping people, and that's why I'm here. And I feel very fortunate to have my co-hosts here, Dr. Barbara Persons and Tony Varela, was in with us today, helping us talk about the different aspects to the Bulletproof diet. As I always say, today is a great day to be alive. Go out and live like you mean it.
You've been listening to the Health and Wellness Club with Bill Romanowski. For more information about the show, go to hwcradio.com and be sure to join us again next week for the Health and Wellness Club with Bill Romanowski, right here on 860 AM, The Answer. The Answer. The Answer. The Answer.